Welcome to the green hell, Margaret. She wakes up disorientated. One moment she was glugging beers in her beautiful Louisville mansion, the next she wakes up in a ruined room, overgrown with vines, covered in bandages with a nasty burn on her leg. This is Margaret Stump, and this is a heavily modded playthrough of Project Zomboid. 10 years later, ordinary zombie population, no respawns, multiple map mods, random zombies, just about any mod you can imagine. Over 100, I believe. Enjoy the journey in this ruined world. She checks the drawers. A Raps for Christ CD isn't going to help in this situation. Margaret can't imagine anything worse, actually. So there are still zombies in this world, wherever she is, and she stomps on the guy's head. It sends a sharp shooting pain up her leg. Margaret gets dressed with the dead zombie's clothes full of holes caked with blood, but at least they offer a little protection. She slips the dead man's socks onto her feetsies. Yummy. She takes a drink from the sink. The water is faintly green and smells bad, but she is so thirsty. Where the hell are we, Margaret? Where did you wake up? She hears a sound outside. Is that a person? Hello? She calls out. The woman approaches. Her name is Sharon. She stares into Margaret's soul. Sharon doesn't talk that much, but she does have a spear, which makes her a very valuable friend indeed. She's going to be handy. She has a spear. Nice to meet you, Sharon. My name's Margaret Stump. There's a zombie here I need you to take care of, Sharon. Sharon, help me. What do we do? What do we do? There's one zombie. Margaret hobbles over to the parked cars. Sharon follows close behind. It turns out Sharon is not the most competent fighter. Sharon watches Margaret desperately try to open the window. Don't mind me, Sharon. I'm just covered in bandages fighting a hangover. Thanks for your help. Don't laugh at me, Sharon. I'd like to see you do better than that. She busts open this van's window. It has a key inside, what a find. And when she checks under the hood, she sees that it also has gas and is in great condition. What a find, Margaret. Maybe it's not the end of the world after all. Now Margaret needs to find food, though these cabins don't seem that promising. She drinks more dirty sink water. They push on towards a camp building and check the kitchen. Nothing, no food inside. She does, however, find a large bleach bottle. Just the perfect thing to drink out of, Margaret. I'm sure it won't cause any lasting damage to your internal organs. It's already 3:20. We need to find somewhere to sleep for the night, at least. Another cabin is full of fishing supplies, which could be very useful if there's a lake nearby. She also finds a harpoon, which makes a significant upgrade on her blue bass guitar. Next door, she checks out the small cafe and finds a single bottle of olive oil amongst the rotten food and bags of flour. It's not the most delectable snack, but it will have to do. They take shelter out of the rain in this shack, and Margaret uses this opportunity to replace the bandages on her wounded body. As she does so, Sharon climbs through a broken window, shredding her hands. Shit, it hurt, it got me, Sharon says to the inanimate window.
Hello? Hi.
Oh, Sharon, you scared me. Margaret has to explain the simple principle of drinking water out of a sink to Sharon. It is the apocalypse, of course. She can forgive Sharon's addled mind. It's been a long and strange day, and Margaret would love to sleep, but the pain is excruciating. She's unable to nod off, especially with Sharon standing over her like a sleep paralysis demon. If she can't sleep, she might as well move, so she checks the map and highlights this building as a potential target. It makes sense to take the van. Why not? Margaret can barely walk. They park up outside, and Margaret hops through the window. The first cupboard she checks has a box of chocolates in. Sharon, what are you doing? The door is barricaded. There we go, I can let you in. The door's not barricaded, I was just lying to you. She replaces her bandages again. Ooze is seeping through the fabric. Now she has a pen. She can start to annotate the map. There's a note in the back office, tucked into the filing cabinet. Bear Camp. Welcome to Bear Camp, a premium fishing destination for happy campers in Knox County, Kentucky. Fish until your hands are red raw and you're hungry for raw flesh. Okay. Well, Sharon, Sharon, excuse me. Thank you. Margaret eats a chocolate from the chocolate box, and Sharon clearly wants one, though she's a bit dramatic about it. I can't go on without some food. Don't worry, Sharon. You can have a chocolate. Unable to sleep, Margaret and Sharon swap stories, nibbling on bites of chocolate. Apparently, Sharon was on holiday at the camp with her family, but when Margaret asks about what happened or where they even are, Sharon isn't able to speak. It's like she's choking on her words. Bear Camp is all she can say. Their storytelling is interrupted by a sound outside. Another survivor. Hello. Her name is Dawn. She is also a strange cookie, and she attempts to bash down the barricaded window with her badminton racket. Come inside, you crazy person. Come in, Dawn. Come in. There are 3 of us. 3 musketeers. 3 powerful ladies. Dawn tells them both that she had been passing on the road just north of here on foot and decided to swing into the camp to see if there's anything to grab. It's absolute hell out there, she says. Sharon and Margaret nod and share some more chocolate with her. The three ladies sit in the dark and tell stories into the night. All of them are unable to sleep, but they found some comfort here in this dark little shack. Some friends, at last. We can finally sleep. She's now ridiculously tired. The new trio head out in their truck to check out the area. Margaret finds a lake with a fishing jetty. Perfect. She goes fishing while Dawn and Sharon stand guard. Dawn tries to offer some fishing tips, but considering her badminton-wielding nonsense, Margaret decides to ignore her. As a result, Margaret only catches a single measly pair of shoes for dinner. She decides that foraging might be a better route, and she finds something more delicious than fish on this dead zombie. A lovely pair of red frilly underpants. Margaret will wear those. Margaret finds a single crispy radish and some various herbs, while Dawn and Sharon follow her around like puppies. Both of her little companions are demanding some food, so she gives both of them a single mushroom. They look at her with concern. "Don't worry," says Margaret. "I'm a professional. These are not poisonous." Both ladies storm in to watch her nibble on the radish. They are clearly jealous, but Margaret is the leader. That much is clear already. The leader always gets the radishes. That's the old saying. Whoever leads the group eats the radish. An old Zomboid proverb. Thanks to the pain-numbing capabilities of the black sage she found, Margaret is able to sleep at a reasonable time. The three heroes wait out the morning light, talking about their past lives. Sharon was a teacher, Dawn an account manager. When it's finally light outside, Margaret heads out with her companions to do more foraging and fishing. Standing very close to me, ladies. Careful, you're going to get a hook in your eye. Nice, we actually caught some fish. More sunfish and a big perch. So it's time for a barbecue. Just having a little cookout with our friends. Margaret gives Sharon a small cooked fish. She is her favourite friend out of the two so far, but don't tell Dawn that. To make this point more clear, Margaret yoinks Dawn's duffel bag. Sharon and Dawn are constantly going on about how thirsty they are, so as a humble and gracious leader, Margaret finds a bottle and fills it up for them. Goot to be back. Goot? What is this language you're speaking? Where did you get that can of beans from, Sharon? Sharon, preserve your food. I'm going to get some food before I die of hunger. I just watched you eat. Both Sharon and Dawn are mumbling some nonsense. Goot? What is goot? After Sharon's antics with the beans, Margaret gives Dawn the water bottle. Goot to be back. Why do you keep saying goot? What is goot? Strange ladies. Margaret does more foraging, mostly bugs, then hops in the van to explore a bit further. On the way, they bump into Marion, another survivor wandering through the ruined camp. This new world is certainly a busy one, but Margaret doesn't mind. She's just happy to see a smiling face, not a blood-drenched jaw. Now we've got 4 of us. Wow, we're a whole gang. Do you mind if I smoke? I'm gonna smoke anyway. I'm Margaret Stump. The gang pulls up into a new neighbourhood not far from the camp. Place looks quite nice, doesn't it? Margaret finds some essentials around the place, like a screwdriver and a club hammer, and this seems like a decent place to call home for now. The gang just checks out the neighbour's house first, which has a lovely pool and an extremely useful can opener. In one of the bedrooms, a radio has been left on, which is a little unsettling. There must be even more survivors out there. She finds a note in one of the desks. My name is Jerry. I passed through here. I don't know the time or the day or the month. The road is hard out there. I cleaned out most of the supplies, but there might be something left. Find me, please. I am so alone. I'm coming, Jerry. We're coming. They investigate another house with zombies inside. What shall we have for dinner? Fish, probably Marion. That's it, Dawn. Nice. Back at the temporary base, Margaret organises some of her first bits of loot in the kitchen and has a cigarette sat at the kitchen table. It's no mansion, but it'll do with a little bit of tidying up. Marion appears to be slowly bleeding, but try as she might, Margaret can't help her. Marion refuses to be touched. Again, this is the apocalypse. Margaret can't be upset that the first people she meets are a little lost and confused. It's time to head to bed, but Dawn sidles in behind Margaret and stands over her bed. Dawn doesn't say anything, just stands and watches her sleep. In the morning, Margaret and Dawn head out to do some more looting. Margaret and Dawn are a dream team. Dawn is really growing on Margaret. Maybe she's not that bad after all. Dawn tells Margaret all about her family, her husband and their 2 sons now long gone, but it is good to reminisce as they head up the ruined street. Margaret tells Dawn all about her husband, Leslie. Is he alive? Asks Dawn. No, replies Margaret. How do you know? I buried him. Ah, says Dawn. In a bathroom, Margaret finds a rifle. This will be useful, not for zombies necessarily, but if there are friendly survivors, there might be some unfriendly survivors too. They loot a little more until her duffel bag is full, and as she's organising loot, Marion walks past with something in her hands. What was that, Marion? Whoa, that's a big fish. What have you got there, Marion? Oh, she's piling up all the bodies. Nice work. Margaret heads back out after lunch, this time by herself. Dawn seems distracted and continues looting. Most of the good stuff has long since been pillaged in these houses, but Margaret does find a multi-tool in this smashed-up car and a sewing kit in one of the bathrooms. Oh, I was just going to come back and get you, Dawn, but you've just sprinted over to find me. Nice to see you. Reunited with her best buddy Dawn, they continue looting. They clean up a few zombies, loot a house or two, and then Dawn begins to speak the language of her people. The door rattle. She loves rattling doors. Yeah, okay, yeah, I get the point, Dawn. I get the point. I'm coming. Here you go. Dawn, you gotta stop. Dawn, you need to stop. At home, Margaret smokes her last cigarette. She'll need to find some more soon. This whole situation with her new strange friends can be quite stressful at times. You want to read with me, Dawn? I'm reading about electricity, something we might need in this world. And there's a bigger bedroom here. Close the door on Dawn. You stay out of here. On day 5, they find Adrian, the first male survivor in the group. Get him, Adrian. Nice. They get to work clearing some buildings. They loot a little food market, check out a sheriff Humvee parked up outside, a bit too smashed to pieces to actually use, and set about a group of overall-wearing farmers, who all have packets of seeds in their pockets. Careful, Adrian. Nice, Dawn. Adrian says something a little concerning. Man, I want a full last meal. You have anything to eat? Last meal? What do you mean? But when she checks, he hasn't been bitten. He's just being dramatic. The day has been just a bit too much for Margaret, and she gets sleepy very early at just past 1 p.m. They all head back in the beautiful little van, their saviour, and Margaret introduces Adrian to the rest of the gang when she gets home. Hello. I'd like everyone to meet Adrian. He's the only man. He also speaks strangely. Good to be back, Adrian. Good to be back. With so many folks wandering around now, Margaret decides to tidy up the place a little, removing all the vegetation from the floor and walls. She reads a bit before bed, then falls asleep. Margaret spends the morning tidying up a bit more, then takes Dawn out for another looting run. Dawn tells Margaret that Adrian had been acting weirdly in the night, pacing around the kitchen, sniffing the cupboards, generally acting like a weirdo. But again, Margaret puts this down to a little apocalypse syndrome. She won't kick Adrian out onto the street alone. Dawn reluctantly agrees. They head out in the rain and start killing zombies. Truly is the song of my people. Bag of seaweed. Magician Apprentice, the Rift War Saga. This is Margaret's favourite book. It's a fantastic fantasy novel if you haven't read it. One of my all-time favourites. Whoa! Whoa, it did an intro attack! Dawn, no! Oh my god. Dawn, come here. Oh, phew. You didn't get bitten. Sorry about that, Dawn. That was my fault. I won't let something like that happen again. Although the zombie did just do a ninja attack over the side of the stair railing. There wasn't much I could do about that. Poetry. Time. Sausage. Black frilly underpants. Dawn, take this armor. Wear them, Dawn. Wear those black frilly underpants. I am your leader. I command it. Come on, Dawn. Let's get back to the base. After that exhilarating day, Margaret and Dawn drive home. Goot to be back. Goot. Let's take the dead rat out of the cupboard. We'll put him on the bench. Dead rat. Margaret reads her favourite book, Magician, while Dawn stands at the end of the bed and hums a little tune. Two best buds, these two. Margaret is glad that Dawn is wearing the black frilly underwear. She's up early, so she reads more of Magician by torchlight and says good morning to the troops. Good morning, gang. The Goot Gang. Margaret eats seaweed for breakfast, tidies up some vegetation in the house, says good morning to Dawn. Good morning, Dawn. How are you today? Yeah, we're going to go on another trip today, I think, Dawn. Marion just loves washing herself in the puddles and touching corpses. Whoa! And then it's time to head out. Dawn and Margaret get to looting. Dawn murmurs something under her breath, which concerns Margaret a little bit. The things I've done. Oh god, okay. Propane torch, very useful. Okay, there's a few here, Dawn. We're going to take it slowly, very slowly. Okay, they're coming, Dawn. Be prepared. Yes. You tell them, Dawn. Nice. Dream team. They continue on and check out this large building, which is packed full of useful books on the shelves. Margaret wants Dawn to carry some things, but apparently she's already loaded up. Dawn just appears to have a lot of twigs and stones and tree branches. Heart of the matter. Fudgemania. Yes, Dawn. Oh, that's a lot. Back up, Dawn. Back up, back up, back up, back up. Careful, Dawn. How are you doing, Dawn? You know, you're a great friend. I just wanted you to know. Thanks, Dawn. Come on, push a little further. With Dawn's confession of her undying friendship for Margaret, they push on a little further to loot this food market. Canned bread. What? That's not a real thing, surely. Maybe in America. That wraps up this day, as it's already 8:30. They reverse all the way home, and Margaret cracks open a fortune cookie she found on a zombie. Look how far you've come. Yeah, Margaret's been on a crazy journey. She doesn't know where she is, but she's making the most of it. She has friends now too, so that's nice. She does a little organisation in the base, then heads to bed. In the morning, Margaret gives Dawn a necklace. They really are becoming the best of friends. And then head out together on another looting run while the rest of the Goot gang ambles around the house. They slice and dice their way up the street, loot this clothes shop. Margaret pulls on this new jacket she finds and opens the back security door of this hardware shop with the key she found on a zombie. Darth Vader's mask. They kill more zombies, loot the bookshop. Again, there is plenty here for Margaret to yoink, and Dawn once again sings the song of her people. Margaret loads up the back of the van with books, then drives up the road to investigate this small restaurant. She finds a single dusty, dry, manky little cigarette next to the fryer in the kitchen, but damn does it taste sweet. Dawn rattles the door, of course, she just can't help it. Preserved pack of steak. Margaret is starting to feel a little more bloodthirsty. So in the corner here, I have a bloodlust meter. Killing a few zombies is not the worst thing. My bloodlust meter is filled up to 16%. So over time, the more zombies I kill, the more bloodthirsty Margaret will become. She loves to stab the zombies in the head with her spear, except when she makes a mistake. Whoa. Missed my swing with the spear. It's not the best weapon for close quarters fighting, I have to say. Did that zombie just say something? Did you hear that, Dawn? I think it said stop. It said stop, and then I shoved my spear into its head. Sometimes it feels like this is some sick, twisted nightmare. Yeah, I can't help but agree with that, Dawn. Yes, the zombie had spoken. Margaret is sure of it. They push on up the road towards this larger food market, but the place is teeming with the undead. They decide it's probably just a good idea to head home and come back to tackle this tomorrow. Anybody got any cigarettes for me? Yes. Goot to be back, Dawn, isn't it? Goot to be back. Margaret eats some seaweed, reads before bed, and falls asleep. In the morning, she wakes up and continues tidying up the house, one vine at a time. She reads while Dawn watches over her shoulder and decides to spend the day indoors as the weather outside is horrible. She exists on a diet of seaweed and chocolate syrup sandwiches. Chocolate syrup sandwich? With cereal? Which don't make her insides feel great, but that's what she's got. Just push me out of my chair. She smokes outside in the rain to smell the petrichor. She reads, then sleeps. It's the first normal feeling day she's had since she woke up in this strange place. When she wakes up, she does some exercise, eats even more seaweed, reads a bunch of magazines, plants some cabbages, and then assigns Marion to be the farmer girl. She gets right to work. Well, I like your watering technique, Marion. Then she heads out with Dawn on an easy looting trip, not into town, but to a few of the buildings a little closer by. Ideally, she'd like to find a generator, but any old loot will do. She finds a radio with the emergency broadcast system tuned in, which is a nice find, and this should keep her up to date with the weather for her new garden. She finds a bathroom in one small house with a pile of trash and bodies and guns and ammo. A note in the back room tells the story. God, what happened in here? I thought we were going to hold out a long time, but the Benson brothers came swinging in, tried to take little Lucy with them. I took them down in the bathroom, a big old pile of blood and guts and trash. Damn, they got me. They got me good. Margaret and Dawn head home, and Margaret sets up the radio and listens. There'll be rain on the way, which is great for the cabbages and tomatoes out back. It's late, so she reads, then sleeps. In the morning, she does a little organisation. The house is already filling up with stuff, and heads out with Dawn to continue looting. Solar panel part. Sounds like that could be important, Margaret. She finds another note in a house. Things Kevin isn't allowed to do. Break windows, yell about exciting discoveries, use the walkies for chat, borrows Andy's car, complain about the transportation situation, borrow anyone else's car, siphon or transfer gas, especially from other people's cars, borrow anyone else's stuff, borrow anything that doesn't have Kevin's name on it, write his name on other people's stuff, invite babes over to preserve the future of the species. Margaret goes round the back and kills Kevin and another pal, seemingly. Poor old Kevin and friends. She hopes this isn't how the Goot Gang ends up. As they're investigating the neighbourhood, Margaret hears the sound of a hammer. And unless the zombies have learned carpentry skills as well as the ability to talk, this likely means another survivor. Hello? They say hello to Taylor, who is gruff but not unfriendly. He would join their group, but there are already too many back at the base and Taylor seems pretty set up. He sends them on their way, saying they should stop by sometime. He's going to try and clear up the street. Nice. The Goot Gang has a neighbour now. She marks the house on the map. As Margaret and Dawn are on the way home, they spot something moving through a window. It's another survivor, Shona, an elderly woman that begs to be taken in. Margaret can hardly say no, so Shona joins the gang, and they take her home. Good to be back. Shona, it's the first time you've ever been here, but welcome. This is Sharon, this is Marion, this is Shona, and Dawn. My name is Margaret Stump. I am the leader, Queen. How are our crops coming along? Wow, they look fantastic. Good job, Marion. Margaret goes to bed. And so begins day number 12. The house is very busy now, with the Goot Gang bigger than ever, and Margaret hopes there's enough food for everyone to eat. Marion's farm should do the job in the short term at least. The two best buds, Margaret and Dawn, head out in the van to search for loot, venturing further into the town centre. Cars cover the main street and zombies shamble out between the burned out husks. They slice and dice their way through the undead. Margaret investigates the food shop and pharmacy, finding many medical books and instruction manuals on how to make prosthetic limbs. Prosthetic. I hate that word. Something that might come in handy. Yes, that's quite funny. Later on. They begin a slow and deliberate march up the street between the ruined cars and hanging vines. The air smells of death and mulch. They check out this sports shop and find an aluminium baseball bat and then investigate this cool-looking trailer. But they can't get inside. The door is wedged shut and Margaret hasn't found a crowbar yet. Margaret walks into a clothes shop and shouts, and the zombies stir from their earthy slumber. The battle is a little frantic as they weave between the wrecked cars and stumble over the weeds. Damn, Dawn hit him so hard he went to another dimension. Just up the road, they spy something even more interesting. An armoured personnel carrier. Unfortunately, the door is wedged shut again and Margaret really needs a crowbar. The buildings are full of zombies and Margaret and Dawn are a little tired, so they retrace their steps to investigate the large parking lot in the middle of town. They smash a few windows, open a few trunks, but don't find anything of major importance. They get their bearings by climbing on top of a car and scanning the lot, spying a nice-looking bus but not much else other than small groups of undead shuffling around. It's time to head home. Margaret tells Dawn she did very well today on the ride home, and her friend just smiles and nods her head, a slightly vacant stare out of the window. They say hello to the Goot Gang. Margaret smokes at the kitchen table and then goes to bed. There's a note tucked underneath her pillow. To Margaret, thank you for taking us in. I'm not sure what we'll be doing without you. Dawn. Sweet. Thank you, Dawn. Good night. Sweet Goot Gang. On the morning of day 13, Margaret begins by doing some organisation. She listens to the weather forecast on the radio and heads out with Dawn on a simple mission. She must find a saw to be able to cut logs and disassemble certain furniture. They drive up past Taylor's house, their gruff neighbour, and begin clearing out zombies, investigating garages and generally picking up pretty much anything they can carry. They stop at Taylor's house and keep an eye out for him, but he can't be seen, probably out on a looting trip. Margaret continues looting. The howls of sausage making. They find Taylor just up the street and they stop for a little chat. Doing just fine, says Taylor, just waiting for it all to blow over. It's a joke, though it's a little hard to tell. Of course, this is never blowing over. They meet another survivor up the road, Alistair. He does have a slightly questionable taste in hair and facial hair, and he tells them that he's friends with Taylor. I still think this is some sick joke.
Ah, you're a friend of Taylor's. I'll leave you be then.
Margaret and Dawn continue looting, but see Alistair up the road slicing his way through the zombies with ease. Margaret and Dawn ask him nicely if he'd rather hang out with the Goot Gang, and Alistair agrees. Taylor is a grumpy old shit.
Hi, Taylor. We're going to take Alistair home with us. I hope that's okay. Yeah, he doesn't seem to mind. He's a bit of a loner anyway, I think, Taylor. Old neighbour Taylor.
Margaret introduces Alistair to the gang, checks out the farm, splendid, just splendid, and gives Alistair a friendship bracelet as a sign of their new alliance.
Your generosity will be rewarded. That's a slightly creepy thing to say, Alistair, but enjoy your friendship bracelet.
Alistair is a strange guy. Dawn and Margaret talk about their plans for the future. Dawn wants chickens, but Margaret isn't sure there are any chickens left in the world. One day, maybe in 2042, says Margaret. Margaret reads about sausages before bed. That is not a euphemism.
Whoa, look at that big sausage book. Sausages.
She wakes up to Dawn knocking on the door, telling her there's a stranger wandering around the garden. Margaret tries to talk to Laura, but the woman just mumbles something about apple trees and walks away down the street. The apocalypse will send you crazy. Margaret and Dawn head out again to search for a saw, bumping into yet another brain-addled survivor on the way. They continue looting. Here's a little look at the map for what they've cleared so far, and check out sheds for tools, find some cigarettes on dead zombies, and do eventually discover what they've been looking for.
Nice, a saw and a welder's mask. Fantastic.
On they go, and as they're killing these zombies, Margaret hears one of them speak. A groaning, unnatural sound. No. The zombie begs for its life, but Dawn is steely-eyed and cleaves its head in two. They don't speak about the talking zombies. It's best to ignore this. They won't tell the others either. They don't want to cause a panic at the base. It seems that the talking zombies are also having an impact on Dawn's mental well-being.
I'm coming back, Dawn. I'm coming back. I know you have severe separation anxiety, little kitten.
They find a wandering nomad, kill it, and steal its butter. Margaret is a butter fiend, a butter demon. She would send 1,000 souls to hell for one more stick of butter. In a wet garden, they find Francis, who's wearing an apron and not much else. He's soaking wet, and when Margaret speaks to him, he just says, "Who's there? Who said that?" The world is full of madmen and dead men, and the Goot Gang is against them all. Margaret marks off the few houses they looted and then heads home with Dawn. She eats some candy cigarettes and seaweed before bed, then snuggles down with her best friend.
Good night, Margaret. Good night, Dawn.
Weather is foul in the morning, so she reads, watching the rain through the window. When it's light outside, she heads to the neighbour's house to start disassembling everything inside. She'll need the carpentry skills to build water collectors to keep her gang well watered. She reaches level 2 in carpentry quickly, and to maximise her learning potential, she heads home and reads the rest of the carpentry book until the evening. Then she eats some seaweed as a pre-bedtime snack.
Dear oh dear, these guys are going to eat me out of house and home. Gonna have to keep there.
Look at them all. Like cockroaches in the kitchen eating all my food. Look at them all.
My God.
Day 16's mission is for Margaret and Dawn to head back to that warehouse or shipping place with all those books on the shelves to find the next level of carpentry she needs. Unfortunately, when they get there, she can't find the book anywhere. So they try the town centre again. They make their way through the ruined cars, and a man called William calls out to them from a window. "Hello there," he says. "You any trouble?" "Not us," replies Dawn. "Do you know where there's a bookshop?" asks Margaret. "Yeah," says William. "There's one just up the road on the left-hand side. You can barely see it through the overgrowth, but it's there." Margaret finds the shop, and it is indeed covered in weeds, just like the man had said. She can hear the guttural growls of zombies all around her. She quietly shuffles through the shelves while Dawn keeps watch at the door. Unfortunately, there's no carpentry books here, but she does find stacks and stacks of useful magazines, including one very useful magazine indeed.
How to use generators. Very useful.
Our hero Margaret has opted for a spear technique in this life of hers, but they break pretty easily. She needs to improve her maintenance skill first before she can use them more regularly. They decide to head back while it's still light. At home, she gets the first glimpse of the declining mental condition of her comrades, a pile of 17 water bottles, some underwear and other clothing items, and a rotten fish left outside in the mud. In the kitchen, Dawn tells Margaret that the others think it was Shona. that the old lady has been acting very strangely indeed, creeping into people's rooms, stealing their stuff and leaving it outside in the rain. Margaret will have to deal with this in the coming days. First, though, she'll do what she does best, and that's expand her mind through the power of words. She reads until the late evening and then gets into bed with a Vienna sausage, not a euphemism. I eat a sausage in bed. Just sausage in bed. Okay, time to sleep. Shona, what are you doing in my room?
What are you eating? Watching me sleep while supping on a delicious something or other. Okay.
Yes, it is clear that Shona needs to leave. She's making everyone feel weird in the camp. Standing over the end of the bed while suckling on some jar or treat is the tipping point for Margaret. She'll ask her to leave in the next couple of days. Margaret wants to head out to keep exploring, hunting for generators, carpentry books, weapons, food and other supplies, but it's foggy, so she does none of that. Instead, she sits inside in the dark, wet house and reads for several hours, engorging herself with information, like how to smelt glass in a frying pan, apparently. That's it. That's her day. Sometimes you need a simple day. Actually, sometimes you need 2 simple days. She doesn't want to venture out again because the weather is disgusting, so she spends the entire morning clearing out all the vines and grass and other lowly vegetation from the building, giving it a brand new lick of spit. When it stops raining so heavily, Margaret heads out with Dawn and they find another straggler down the street. What? Someone with a very interesting name indeed.
Excuse me?
Hello?
What is your name?
Leslie.
Wow. Okay. That's giving Margaret the heebie-jeebies. Hell, you look pretty undead already. Must be the stress, huh? Wow. Okay.
Unfortunately, this is not the Leslie she is looking for, but there is a chance that he is still alive in this world. Maybe. This lady is just a rude old bint. They carry on up the road towards the lake, but the area is pretty busy. Margaret hops out with her spear, but they quickly get overwhelmed.
Careful, Dawn. Getting a little surrounded here. Back up. Back up.
Careful, Dawn.
Oh, God.
Dawn. Dawn, be careful. Now all her spears are broken, except for the ones back at the base, so she does some foraging to try and find some branches to fashion into a weapon. Nothing to be found in the rain, unfortunately. They push on, Margaret now armed with her final spear. The building they had targeted is just a hotel, with nothing too useful inside. Unfortunately, the day has been a bit of a waste, so they head back home. It's good to be back. Goot on, long live Goot. To Goot till we part. Oh, to Goot another day. Goot me, please. So on and so on. Margaret reads before bed and then sleeps, her head full of sweet goots. On the next day, Margaret heads out in the rain to go foraging. Dawn doesn't mind watching her back while she scrabbles around in the dirt. She finds all sorts of useful things like tree branches and mushrooms and other fruit and vegetables. After that foraging run, she actually found a large number of seeds, so she instructs Adrian to expand the farming zone. He gets right to work. Margaret, as the leader of the group, instead spends time showing Dawn her new bugs, which she puts on a bedside table, 2 worms and a caterpillar. Back on the farm, she says nice job to Adrian. Do you want a bug? She asks. Her friend gives her a weird look. No thanks, he says. Margaret and Dawn head out to clear some zombies, nothing too strenuous, and push a little further into town on a scouting trip to see what they can find. They do a quick loop around the neighbourhoods, some industrial buildings, a few terraced houses, nothing that really sticks out. They check out a couple of cars in the lot, attracting the attention of some Zeds, and then they make their merry way back to the base. On the way back, Dawn suggests that it really is time to get rid of Shona. Dawn had found her last night in the farmyard, picking the baby tomatoes and rubbing them in her ears, then throwing them over the fence. The gang are worried, says Dawn. So when Margaret finds Shona stood over the piles of bottles and other stuff outside the house, it's time to ask her to leave. This does not go to plan. Shona immediately smacks Margaret in the arm with a baseball bat.
What the? I tried to tell Shona to go away and she just started attacking me. Dawn, get her!
The only measured response is to attack Shona with a hammer. Oh God. This is horrible. Oh God. Oh my God.
Oh my God. Margaret, you're insane. That's it, Marion. Dispose of the body. Wow. We asked her to leave. She didn't. She attacked us with a baseball bat, and then we beat her to death with a hammer. My God. Got anything good? Oh, sorry, Shona. We should bury her, really, shouldn't we? Do we have a shovel yet? Have a look. With Shona dealt with horrifically, now their attention turns to Alistair, the guy with the questionable hair and mustache. He's a really odd guy as well. He's always just sort of stood on the edges, on the fringes. He might have to be the next one to go. First, she digs Shona a grave and buries the poor old lady. It wasn't really her fault. The apocalypse can do strange things to a person. Margaret did what she did for the greater good. You could say the greater good. She hopes her new companions don't look down on her, though she assumes they do not. Someone needs to step up in these situations, and Margaret is willing to take the fall. She's been through a lot already. She can go through a lot more. She's Margaret goddamn Stump. I would leave your baseball bat there, but I kind of want it. We'll build you a cross in the morning, Shona. Good to be back, yes, indeed. Indeed it is. She wakes up very early with cold sweats, with night terrors, thinking Alistair is lingering at the end of the bed. Or maybe the ghost of Shona. But there is no one there. Margaret is scared that Alistair has been crawling around in the night. She loads up a pistol in the kitchen and heads outside, Dawn at her side with the meat cleaver. Oh, Alistair, where are you? Alistair? Hello? I'm going to ask you very politely to leave the group. There's too many of us. Yes, they've been whispering things about you. That you weren't very happy about what we did to Shona. Okay, I'm going to ask you to leave. Oh. Okay. He left. I'm not going to shoot you. You're free to go, Alistair. You're free to go. Alistair still hasn't moved. Very strange man. Okay. We slept very poorly because of all of that racing through our head, so we're just gonna read. Margaret understandably slept very poorly, so she settles down to read for the entire day. On the next day, she's up at 3 a.m, so she heads out in the dark with her best buddy, Dawn, and starts looting some of the large mansions just past Taylor's house. They spend the morning looting, and when Margaret gets back to the van, she realises she's carrying 21 cabbages. I guess someone must have tucked them into her clothes when she wasn't looking. Maybe. Is this the first produce from the homestead farm? Margaret finds a new bag, loots some more houses, and then bumps into another survivor outside. Another mentally challenged survivor. Weird thing is, my friend... I like your... Yeah, nice. Nice move, Samantha. She makes her way down the street, crossing out the buildings as she goes, and at about 7 p.m. she heads home and decides to finally hitch up the trailer to the van. This is because Margaret and Dawn have started to make secret plans to leave the homestead. After Margaret had beaten Shona to death with a hammer, the place doesn't feel quite the same. Go figure. Margaret thinks the rest of the Goot gang might be better off on their own. Hi, gang. Okay, me and Dawn have made a plan. We're going to leave. As Margaret collects all the goodies to load into the trailer, I'll just expand on that problem I'm facing in this playthrough. The survivors doing their tasks and wandering about and leaving all their shite on the floor is making Project Zomboid very sad indeed. Margaret and Dawn will strike out on their own, mostly to give my PC a break. On the morning of the next day, very early in the morning, Margaret writes a note to the Goot gang. I think it's only fair that we leave them a note. To the Goot gang, it's time for us to leave. We might be back. I hope you have found some solace here. Grow your vegetables, survive, thrive, and most importantly, Goot on. She leaves the note on the bed, tucked halfway under her pillow, and then leaves in a hurry, careful not to wake anyone up. Dawn wipes away a tear. It's all right, says Margaret. We're going to get through this together. They head to the large car park, mostly to siphon gasoline from the cars there, but also to admire these two beautiful sports cars. Both have keys, but they're not the most practical vehicles in an overgrown apocalypse. As they work, Margaret lures a horde over. And, in a moment of madness, Dawn runs into the group. A zombie lurches forwards and grabs at her. Margaret finishes off the zombies. It's okay, Dawn. Calm down. Bandage up. I've got you covered. She looks over her shoulder. Dawn is crying. Her hand is bleeding profusely. Oh no. Dawn. Dawn. On the first day of our adventure. Oh God. What are we meant to do, Dawn? I can't leave you. Oh, Dawn. Oh no. So sorry, Dawn, I failed you. Dawn smiles weakly. It's alright, she says. It was always bound to happen. Come on, let's carry on. Don't let me get you distracted. I don't want to think about it, really. Let's carry on like nothing happened. So they continue their work, siphoning gas, investigating cars, and when Margaret tries to check out this large military bus... What the? Oh my God. Oh. I was not expecting that. It's been one hell of a day already. They stop for a cigarette. How are you feeling, Dawn? Not good? No. Not good. Then they drive on. It's a little busy up ahead near the garages, so Margaret hops out with her spear to clear the area. Dawn gets stuck in, bless her. She's not giving up yet, even as the infection slowly spreads up her arm. Margaret decides it's a good idea to bunker down in one of the garages for the night. Dawn in one and Margaret in another, in case her friend turns in the night. Pills and a pistol. Good luck, Dawn. I might see you in the morning. I'm just going to sleep in the room next door, in a tent. Dawn, you scared me. You need to stay in there. She pitches her tent and rolls the shutter closed, then sits and reads a magazine, and suddenly breaks out into dance. Your best friend is dying next door. And you're dancing. In the morning, she heads out into the crisp, waking hour light. You're still alive. Okay. I understand. I guess this is goodbye then. 1 second. Here. I'll give you some wine too. Will you be safe here? Yeah, I guess that's true. Doesn't really matter if you're safe or not. Thanks for everything, Dawn. I'm sorry. Yeah. Thank you. I hope I do too. Maybe I'll find Leslie. Maybe not. Goodbye, old friend. Margaret and Dawn have one last hug. Dawn wishes Margaret good luck with finding her husband Leslie, if he's even out there, dead or alive. And good luck in trying to stay alive. They had a good run while it lasted. And so Margaret continues on her own. And so Margaret continues on her lonesome. There are a few zombies she needs to take care of in the parking lot, and she goes to town with them with her scrap sword. With Dawn now gone, Margaret's attention returns to her original plan. She is certain that her husband is alive in this universe. She is certain of it. As she slices through each zombie's head, the image burns even brighter. Leslie is out there, she knows it. Now her quest begins. Her quest to find him. In fact, she feels so good about it, she just has to dance. Sorry, Dawn. Margaret settles down for the night in the back room of a gas station. She nibbles on some jerky, has a cigarette, and sleeps in a tent. We actually rejoin Margaret just a few days later. We left her on the outskirts, didn't we? Somewhere over here. She drove all the way down this road, all the way into this town. She spent a couple of nights here, mostly hanging out in this warehouse, and now she's driving this way. You've hardly missed anything. The footage corrupted, unfortunately, so what are you gonna do? We only missed 2 days. The past few days have passed Margaret by, mostly a lot of driving and no sight of Leslie. She powers on, though. She is sure that he is just waiting around the next corner, his lovely long hair in a ponytail, grizzly beard. The road goes on. She pushes past a piece of road still under construction and into another busy town. Is Leslie here somewhere? She feels so close to him now. Margaret finds a decent spot to stop and clears out the nearby zombies. As she loots, she finds something truly silly, an enormous pen. Is she sure that this is real life? The pen sure does hit hard. Margaret returns to her garage, where she'll set up for the evening. She kills the last couple of zombies nearby. Clear out the neighborhood. Shouting to make sure the area is clear, and then reads a self-help book before bed. Just read this self-help book, Camping in a Garage at the End of the World. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Powerful Lessons in Personal Change. Yes, do you like that, Margaret? You shall better yourself. You shall improve your soul, Margaret. And as she settles down for a lovely little sleep. Oh my god. I'm bitten. Oh no. Margaret. Oh, that's not good. No, Margaret. No. Sleeping in a garage, ripped out of your tent in the middle of the night and eaten on the head. Oh no. We can't even do anything about it. We can't chop off her arm. We can't chop off her leg. She got bitten on the head, ripped out of her scalp. Oh, what can we even do? We have to try and find Leslie somewhere before I perish. He must be here. We have to find him. He must be somewhere. Drive, Margaret, drive. We have to find him. Oh, that's a dead end. We don't have time for dead ends, Margaret. Oh, she's got blood all over her face and her eyes, and she can barely drive right now. Okay, there we go. We managed to turn around. So it is done. Margaret Stump is doomed. Dragged out of her tent while she slept and bitten on the head by a rampant zombie. In a last-ditch attempt to find her husband out there somewhere, she jumps behind the wheel of the van, shouting out the window into the streets, blood pouring down her face. Drive, Margaret, drive through the town. But even the little van is close to giving up. The engine. The engine keeps sputtering, and there's a goddamn whole train blocking the crossing to the other side of town. The engine died again. Start the engine. Oh, even though you're bitten, it's not the end yet, Margaret. We can still find Leslie. Shirley? That's not Leslie. So close to a Leslie, though. Shirley, Leslie. Oh, that's a good sign, though. Maybe I should have stopped and asked her if she knew there was only one. She looked like she's in a bit of a pickle, to be honest. She carries on, but eventually... Oh my god, how did I get out of there? How did I get out of that? How did I get out of that? Oh my god. The van is dead, and so is her easiest way to find Leslie. Now she's being chased by a horde of zombies through the woods. She loops around, leaving them in the trees, to grab the 4 bottles of bourbon out of the trailer. Hell, she's gonna need them. Now she is confined to walk the streets, pacing endlessly towards a tragic death with no purpose, no goal, nothing in mind but finding her sweet husband Leslie. Down the road she finds a pharmacy, the perfect shop really in this situation, and she gobbles down a bunch of pills straight from the shelves, breathing heavily. Margaret stumbles into town, her head is burning, her mind is a little fuzzy from all the pills. She's in a delirious state. She goes from building to building, whispering, "Leslie, Leslie, Leslie," as she kills zombies at random. She sits in a chair in a random house and eats a whole box of chocolates. A man called Philip tries to attack her. Is he even real? She can't tell. Her brain is throbbing. Margaret lunges with her spear and the man runs off. Exhausted, she collapses onto a sofa, and when she wakes up... Hello. It's Leslie. Leslie Stump. He's there in all his stinky glory. Margaret collapses into his arms. What do you want? Do you know who I am? Gunshots wake her sometime later. The world is falling apart around her. Is this a nightmare? A dream? Margaret closes the curtains one by one, shutting out the world. closing it all down, putting Leslie into cocoons so they never have to be apart again. In a moment of feverish madness, she begins tidying up. Leslie watches silent. He won't stop her, of course, starting to feel queasy. Margaret takes a shower. She can no longer determine reality from fiction. The water is warm. Is the water warm, or is it just her boiling skin? Leslie stands over the end of the bed and keeps guard as Margaret falls into a restless sleep after inhaling 30 painkillers and an entire bottle of bourbon. He leads her into the rain. She follows with her candle. Leslie, where are you going? Some people I like better after they turn. Oh, that's very sweet of you to say, Leslie, but I'm going to die. Can you come inside, please? It's raining. What do you need? I need your love and support. Margaret can't even make it back inside, but the cool rain soothes the hotness of her body. She wakes in the fetid yellow room, smokes a cigarette, drinks another bottle. Leslie must have carried her here. She's feverish. Try and get some rest, Margaret. Margaret crawls into the bathroom and stands shaking in front of the mirror. Her skin is grey and slimy. A zombie appears at the window. Margaret stomps it out of its existence. She might be sick and dying, but she's still Margaret goddamn Stump. Margaret lies on the floor, resting her head on Leslie's feet. A woman, she moves in and out of Margaret's peripheral vision. Barbara? Barbara? Who is Barbara? And then the woman is gone. She enters a limbo state of taking pills and passing in and out of consciousness while Leslie watches on, silent. Margaret wants to write a note, but the words won't come. Her hands lock up. She smokes in the hot yellow room. Leslie at the end of the bed, sort of shadowy, but still there, still there. Margaret lies down in the rain. She has lost track of time, what day it is, where she is, who she is. Leslie, the time is near. When I die, when I turn, I want you to shove that knife into my head. Okay? She lies in bed. Her health bar creeps ever lower, and lower, and lower. You sure know how to survive. Boy, am I glad I ran into you. Thank you for trusting me. You know the thing I miss the most? Hamburgers. Oh well, at least he made Margaret smile. The world turns fuzzy, misty. Leslie? Are you there? Leslie? A greyness descends. Just like that. What was she doing there at the end? Almost like she was saying, no, no. Leslie. You need to put me out of my misery. Oh. We're friends. They're actually friends. Maybe that's how the story continues. And so ends the saga of the Stumps. From Leslie's inaugural journey in Rod, the RV, almost a year ago, so it ends with them both, trapped forever in a peaceful limbo. Thanks for joining me on this journey. There is no such thing as a happy ending in Project Zomboid, but this is almost as close as you can get.